Morning guys, hope you're all doing well. Today we have episode 3 of Cigar Box Sundays. Now today in front of you, as you can clearly see by the top of the box, we have a Pour Laranaga. This particular Pour Laranaga is the Monte Carlos. Now, as you can see, and if you know your languages, this box is from France. I picked this up in Paris. So unfortunately you can see French warning labels, again typical French warning labels. Unfortunately ones like this, you can sometimes try and take them off. This one in particular is almost impossible unless you ripped half the box. You can see there's one here which I managed to take off, but starting to peel the box, but at the end of the day it's just for looks. I did manage to get the one off the bottom. As you could even see the box code, there's one not entire size. You can see a little bit here, but again, personally to me, if I can take the warnings off, I try to, because personally one of the things I love about Cuban cigars are the artwork that you find on the boxes. So yeah, box of Pour Laranagas. This box date, pretty young, October 23. Pour Laranaga, I've said it before a couple of times, probably one of my kind of top 3 brands, partly because there's not a bad cigar that they make. They're a relatively small brand now. They used to be huge. They used to have a very large portfolio, but as with many Cuban cigar brands over the years, they've just been knocked down to where I think currently the portfolio is maybe 5 cigars. You used to probably be over 20, but this one is one of my favourites. It's a very underrated cigar, starting to become a bit more popular, but thankfully I found it before it became popular, because it used to be a very poor seller. So you would walk into a lot of cigar shops, you would be able to pick either a box up or a few singles up, which had sometimes a little bit more age on them. Whereas now, as with most Cuban cigars, they're impossible to find, and because they have starting to get more of a cult following, very hard to find aged. So, a classic dress box. So again, Pour Laranaga, Monte Carlos. Again, I love Pour Laranaga artwork that you find on their boxes. Again, always a Habanos certificate. And here we have them. Lovely presented in a dress box of 25. This cigar only comes in a dress box of 25. Bit of information as always. This is originally a pre-1960 release. However, it is not the same cigar from this pre-1960s, because up until 2002 this was a machine-made cigar. They used to come in cellophane, and they were okay, but they weren't regarded as premium cigars, as with many cigars of this size across all brands from Cuba. Pre the early 2000s, they were quite often machine made, whereas in 2002, along with this cigar and many others, the cigars were essentially re-released. And here we have the 2002 release date upwards, where it's 100% hand rolled long filler tobacco. Of course, like I said, dress box 25. The vitola is a slim panatella, also known as a delicosos, and the ring gauge is a 33 ring gauge by 6.25. So a very slim cigar in comparison to your more modern stuff. If I actually bear with me 1 second, I can get a larger cigar to compare. For example, this is a Punch Double Corona. You get look at the size difference. So if I can try and get one out for you, which is always easier said than done. Here we go. You can see So this being a double Corona 50 ring gauge, you can really see the size difference. But personally, these are some of the finest cigars you can buy. Very elegant in size, fantastic smokes. For anyone that's never experienced a slimmer ring gauge before, I always find you have much more concentrated flavours because the airway is obviously so much smaller compared to a larger cigar such as this. You're in a position where the flavours are much more concentrated. I find you find some more kind of rich tones, rich flavours come through, whereas on a larger cigar you may also get those rich flavours, but you might be able to detect more subtle flavours too. Whereas with slimmer cigars, because it's such a small passage for the smoke to pass through, you can typically find a lot more of those strong, more pronounced flavours, and then some of the more subtle flavours can be slightly harder to detect, but always super flavourful. But of course, being Pour Larnaga, it sticks to the Pour Larnaga brand. It's very, I would say, strength-wise, like medium, but these being full flavoured. Kind of that classic Pour Larnaga, where I find they all have that kind of really subtle, in these cases, that sort of kind of caramel note, but very rich tobacco, barnyard, and occasionally I can get a slight chocolatey note from the Monte Carlos. If you are into your Cuban cigars and like a sweet cigar, for me the Pour Larnaga Petite Corona is almost pure caramel. Those with kind of 4 or 5 years of age in them are just superb. But again, these cigars, because of the nature of the size, they still aren't that popular, but they're getting more of a cult following. They've always been a collector's piece. Kind of, if you're in the know, you might have tried one and realised how much of a great cigar it is. But if you hadn't known, you would probably have just never bothered until people such as Kirby Allison, for example. I know he's become a massive fan of this, and that's one of the reasons I think in the UK this cigar has become more popular. It's because he's got such a big following. And he's talked about Monte Carlo so often and smokes it on a very regular basis. It's one of those cigars that anyone with such a big following that posts about it, people follow on and try it and understand why it's such a good cigar. Price wise in the UK, not fantastic. They're about £15 to £16 a cigar, depending upon where you buy them. They used to be, back when I started smoking the Monte Carlos, they used to be £7 a cigar, so it used to be really good value. Now £16 for a slim Panatella, not sure it's the best value. Of course, as with this box is from France, if you can go to Spain, France, Germany on holiday and find them, they're probably a third of the cost that they are here. But yeah, fantastic cigars. Would highly recommend to anyone that enjoys Pour Larnaga, but also wants to experience a slightly more unique smoking experience, because again, so many people are used to cigars of this type of stature and ring gauge. Well, maybe not a double Corona, because of course, depending upon who you are, this is a 2.5 hour, 3 hour smoke, whereas the Monte Carlo can last 20 minutes, maybe 35 if you're slow. But yes, that's it for episode 3, covering the Pour Larnaga Monte Carlos. Again, a true favourite of mine. Something that I'm glad I enjoy, because again, it's very unpopular size these days, but is it something I would want to smoke every day? No, but it's truly a favourite of mine. I'm really happy to have it in the collection. But yeah, that being said, hope you guys enjoyed that. Take care. Cheers.